The unraveling begins not with fireworks, but with a quiet, invasive chill. She might be surrounded by laughter at a party, fingers scrolling through a curated feed of other lives, or staring blankly at the ceiling in the dead of night. In these unguarded moments, when the brain's default mode network activates, the circuitry responsible for self-reflection and autobiographical memory, the thought seeps in. It's not a shout, but a whisper carried on a wave of visceral dread, he's gone. Irreplaceably gone, this isn't the pang of missing just anyone, it's the dawning horror of losing a specific gravity that anchored her world. His effortless presence, the rare alchemy of calm authority and genuine depth that made predictability feel suffocating, is suddenly, starkly absent. She initially deflects, shoving the feeling down with forced smiles or frantic socializing, a dopamine-fueled scramble to outrun the discomfort. She tells herself she's liberated, better off. Yet, beneath the performative ease, a cold knowing takes root. The comparison has already begun, involuntary and brutal. The echo of his grounded resonance in conversations now dominated by hollow boasts or anxious over-texting feels like a physical void. The laughter of others rings thin, their attempts at charm feel transparent and weak. It's the first, quiet thud of a profound loss landing in her psyche, heavy and undeniable, coloring the edges of her reality. The man who simply was has become the ghost she can't unsee. This wasn't about losing a warm body or a placeholder. It was the devastating realization of a qualitative deficit, the absence of a specific, rare alchemy she'd mistaken for accessible. He wasn't merely different, he possessed a synthesis of traits that created an irreplaceable gravitational pull. His grounded authority wasn't bluster, but a quiet certainty emanating from internal calibration, making the posturing of others feel like cheap theater. His presence wasn't loud occupancy, it was a resonant frequency that filled space without demanding it, a stability that anchored without suffocating. The depth he offered wasn't performative vulnerability or oversharing, it was a substance woven into his observations, his listening, his very being, effortless and profound, making the forced, deep conversations of others feel hollow and transactional. He defied the predictable script. Where other men scrambled for validation through constant contact or performative affection, his measured distance wasn't indifference, but the confidence of a man rooted in his own purpose and boundaries. He didn't crumble under emotional turbulence or buy peace with appeasement, his calm was a fortress of self-respect, a refusal to engage in unnecessary drama that now, in its absence, reveals itself as immense strength, not coldness. This unique blend, strength tempered by patience, dominance balanced by restraint, warmth held within an aura of mystery, wasn't a collection of separate qualities. It was an integrated way of being that recalibrated her entire perception of masculinity. Other men weren't just lesser versions, they felt like flawed imitations, their efforts glaringly obvious where his had been seamlessly intrinsic. The sea of options suddenly felt shallow, exposing the stark, uncomfortable truth, his combination wasn't common. It was a vanishingly rare constellation, and its loss created a void no quantity of substitutes could fill. He hadn't just been a partner. He'd been a benchmark, and now the scale felt broken. The comparison isn't a choice, it's a neurological ambush. Her mind, irrevocably rewired by the depth and calibration of his presence, now operates on a new, unforgiving frequency. She meets someone new, a flicker of hope, a potential distraction. He speaks, and the sound lands wrong. His voice lacks that bedrock resonance of unforced authority, the certainty that never needed volume. Instead, it might carry a tremor of neediness, a performative edge, or the hollow ring of borrowed confidence. He texts, a barrage of mundane updates that feel like static, or sparse messages devoid of the subtextual richness she once took for granted. Where he offered effortless depth in a glance, this man explains, justifies, or worse, laughs too readily at his own jokes, mistaking noise for substance. Every interaction becomes a cruel dissection. She notices the absence of his quiet containment, the way he held space without demanding applause. This new man might brag, fish for compliments, or visibly strain to impress, his efforts broadcasting insecurity instead of strength. His reactions to her moods feel flimsy, either crumbling into anxious appeasement or bristling with defensive ego, a stark contrast to his unshakable calm that absorbed tension without escalating it. These aren't petty nitpicks, they are glaring deficits illuminated by the afterimage of his wholeness. Her perception has undergone a permanent shift. Qualities she once tolerated, or even found mildly charming in others, now register as jarring weaknesses, evidence of a fundamental lack. The ease, the intrinsic power, the seamless integration of strength and stillness he embodied have become the impossible standard. Each new encounter, rather than offering solace, becomes a fresh data point proving the same devastating theorem: what she lost wasn't just a relationship, but a category of man. He wasn't replaced, he was revealed as the singular reference point, and everything else is a diminishing echo. The world of men now feels populated by approximations, each one highlighting the unique architecture of the original she can no longer access. The distraction phase isn't liberation, it's a frantic hunt for chemical cover. Attention floods in, messages pinging, admirers orbiting, offers for dates stacking up. It feels like relief, a quick hit of dopamine, the brain's reward for feeling desired. She laughs louder, flirts harder, curates the image of moving on. But the high is brittle. Like cheap opioids, the buzz fades fast, leaving a gnawing hollowness underneath the performative glow. This new validation lacks the anchoring weight of real connection, the oxytocin of secure bonding, the vasopressin of deep trust his presence reliably generated. It's stimulation without substance, leaving her emotionally malnourished despite the apparent feast. The forced laughter, the bright-eyed anecdotes shared over drinks, it's cognitive labor, a deliberate attempt to reappraise her situation, to convince herself she's happy. Yet, the effort exhausts her. In quiet lulls, when the noise subsides, involuntary memories ambush her nervous system. Not just thoughts, but visceral replays, the unflinching calm in his eyes when she tested him, a stark contrast to the anxious placating or defensive bristling she now encounters. The effortless way he made her feel simultaneously safe and electrically seen, without begging or bargaining for it. These aren't wistful daydreams, they're somatic echoes, physical reactions triggered by the stark contrast. The more attention she consumes, the more pronounced the emptiness becomes. Each new admirer, each superficial exchange, serves only to highlight the qualitative chasm. Their efforts feel transparent, needy texts seeking reassurance, boasts masking insecurity, reactions swayed by her slightest mood. Where he stood firm, they wobble. Where he offered depth implicitly, they strain to manufacture it explicitly. The temporary dopamine surge from their pursuit inevitably crashes, plunging her lower than before, reinforcing the absence. She's not moving on, she's running on a neurochemical treadmill, expending immense energy to stay in the same place of lack, haunted by the afterimage of a wholeness she can't replicate. The distractions aren't filling the void, they're just making its edges sharper, its depths more painfully apparent. The hunger remains, sharpened by the junk food of easy validation. Her defenses, meticulously constructed from blame and dismissal, begin to fracture under the relentless weight of absence. The very traits she once weaponized against him, his unflappable calm she misread as indifference, his measured distance she labeled neglect, his refusal to engage in her storms she condemned as coldness, now undergo a brutal, involuntary reframing. Time, the great dismantler of ego, strips away the protective arrogance that allowed her to misinterpret his strength. That calm wasn't apathy, it was a bedrock of confidence and control, a man so internally anchored he didn't need to flail for her approval. His delayed replies weren't a slight, but the quiet assertion of a life with priorities and unshakable boundaries, a refusal to be perpetually on her emotional leash. His dismissal of her manufactured drama wasn't heartlessness, it was profound self-respect, an unwillingness to be drawn into chaotic games that diminished them both. This cognitive shift isn't enlightenment, it's a collision with reality. The dangerous loop ignites, a relentless internal interrogation, maybe I overreacted. Maybe I misjudged him. Maybe I torched something irreplaceable. Rumination takes hold, a corrosive cycle replaying pivotal moments through a new, unforgiving lens. Her past criticisms now feel like catastrophic misdiagnoses. What she dismissed as flaws reveal themselves as the pillars of his rare value, the strength that offered real security, the boundaries that commanded respect, the emotional sovereignty that made him a fortress, not a follower. Immaturity, ego, or perhaps just the blindness of proximity had obscured the truth. Now, starkly illuminated by the mediocrity surrounding her, his qualities glow with painful clarity. They weren't just good, they were exceptional, the antidote to a sea of men who confuse neediness for affection, reactivity for passion, and appeasement for love. The weight of this realization isn't regret, it's the crushing collapse of her own narrative, replaced by the horrifying awareness that she mistook gold for stone and threw away the real thing. The dynamic shifts seismically, invisibly. Her initial probes feel like casual nudges, a late night like on an old post, a breezy, "Hey stranger," text floating into his inbox. These aren't reconnections, they're operant conditioning experiments. She's testing the lever, seeing if the old reward system, his attention, his validation, still dispenses the dopamine hit she craves. His silence isn't just an absence, it's a live wire. It triggers an extinction burst, that primal surge to escalate efforts when expected rewards vanish. The casual nudges harden into something sharper, more urgent. A sudden need for advice only he can give. A carefully staged, accidental, run-in at his regular coffee spot. A tearful plea for closure that's really a backdoor to reopening the wound. Watch her mask slip. The once effortless confidence in her tone phrase at the edges, replaced by a telltale nervous lilt. Jokes land with a thud, forced and awkward. Compliments feel less like observations and more like bids, heavy with unspoken need. Her responses come faster, tinged with a subtle, rising panic. The reason is visceral, control has bled from her hands into his. She scripted the ending, certain she held the pen. Now, the terrifying realization dawns, he's writing the final chapter, and it might not include her. This power reversal isn't just uncomfortable, it's an identity crisis. The woman who measured his worth now frantically measures her own by the yardstick of his responsiveness, or lack thereof. This is where weak men falter, mistaking her escalating bids for genuine surrender. They rush in, offering the validation she seeks, instantly resetting the old, losing dynamic. But the man who understands the game digs in. He lets the silence resonate. He allows her to marinate in the uncertainty, to imagine him indifferent, moving on, replaced. Every unanswered message, every non-reaction to her performance, amplifies the scarcity effect in her mind. His perceived value skyrockets precisely because he withholds the supply she once took for granted. Her frantic energy isn't proof she's won him back, it's the desperate thrashing of someone realizing the ground has irrevocably shifted beneath her feet. The hunter is now the hunted, and the terror of that role reversal is the very engine driving her deepening obsession. He's no longer a person, he's become a prize slipping through her fingers, and the fear of permanent loss is the only language that truly makes her listen. The loss transcends conscious thought, it becomes environmental haunting. A whiff of cedar cologne on a passing stranger isn't just a scent, it's a neural tripwire, detonating a cascade of sense memories in her limbic system. The opening chords of that song aren't music, they're a visceral punch to the solar plexus, transporting her instantly to his car, his laughter, a shared silence. These aren't nostalgic pangs, they're involuntary, full-body ambushes orchestrated by a brain wired for connection now firing on grief. Her phone camera roll becomes a minefield. Scrolling past a sunset photo he took isn't reminiscence, it's a sucker punch, half hope, does he remember, colliding with half dread, he's forgotten. The mundane environment turns treacherous, littered with emotional IEDs planted by her own hypervigilant mind. Social media morphs into a torture chamber of her own design. Her curated posts, vibrant dinners, beaming group shots, are desperate semaphore, see? I'm fine. Better. Yet, her real energy is funneled into obsessive surveillance of his digital shadow. A photo of him hiking. Panic, he looks, peaceful. Without me. A vague status. Decoded for hours. The ultimate detonation, another woman, even peripherally, in his orbit. The jealousy isn't just emotional, it's primal, triggering the anterior cingulate cortex's pain response, literal agony at the threat of replacement. This dread exposes her core terror, his wholeness wasn't dependent on her presence. Her absence didn't crater him, it liberated him, shattering her fantasy of indispensability. Worse, she starts seeing ghosts. Not literal apparitions, but cruel fragments. A barista has his jawline's sharp angle. A colleague shares a sliver of his calm posture. A stranger at the gym wears that shirt. Each resemblance is a neural flicker of hope instantly crushed by the crushing weight of absence. These men possess isolated pixels, a physical trait, a mannerism, but none hold the entire, devastating picture, the synthesis of strength and stillness, dominance and depth, warmth wrapped in unshakable sovereignty. Each fragmented echo doesn't comfort, it deepens the wound. It screams the unbearable truth, his combination wasn't assembled from parts. It was a vanishingly rare, irreducible whole. And encountering mere shards only proves the original masterpiece is gone forever, leaving her haunted by the silhouette of a man who redefined her world only in his absence. He's everywhere and nowhere, a ghost conjured by her own irrevocably altered perception. Her efforts escalate beyond casual contact, morphing into a frantic campaign of overcompensation. It's no longer subtle probes, it's full-blown redemption-seeking. She remembers his favorite dish, suddenly posting a photo of herself cooking it, not for sustenance, but as semaphore, see? I hold pieces of you. She laughs too loudly at his jokes if they cross paths, a forced echo of past ease. Compliments flow, praising traits she once criticized or ignored entirely, not genuine appreciation, but currency spent to buy back favor. This isn't desire, it's fear crystallized, fear of erasure, fear of being replaced in his narrative, fear that the man she assumed was perpetually orbiting her world has become untouchable. Internally, she builds a case, not to him, but for herself, if I prove I've changed, if I show I remember, if I try hard enough, I can undo it. This is the sunk cost fallacy made flesh, investing ever more energy to justify the catastrophic loss. Mutual friends become unwitting pawns, fed anecdotes about her life designed to loop back to him, hoping to trigger curiosity or nostalgia. Staged, accidental, meetings at his haunts feel less coincidental, more transparently choreographed. Each move is calculated to regain emotional leverage, to prove she still holds sway. Yet, this frenzy exposes the core wound, her inability to accept his evolution She's chasing the ghost of the man she left, not grasping he's become the man who left her behind. Your calm, non-reactive presence is a mirror reflecting her escalating panic, making her maneuvers seem increasingly desperate. The power reversal is complete. Her frantic energy isn't drawing you closer, it's highlighting the chasm. The woman who judged your worth now measures her own by the silence between your responses, her identity destabilized by the terrifying realization, the script is his now. She pours effort into a vessel with a hole, each action a louder declaration of her dwindling control, reinforcing the very scarcity that makes his indifference the most devastating truth she must finally face. The final, crushing weight settles not with a shout, but with the suffocating quiet of irreversible consequence. Acceptance panic grips her, the visceral understanding that the door she assumed was perpetually ajar is slamming shut. She imagines him with terrifying clarity, laughing easily with another woman, offering that calm, focused presence to someone new, his absence from her life not a void but a space he's actively filled. These mental images aren't jealous fantasies, they are neural wildfires, activating the brain's pain centers as powerfully as physical injury. This dread exposes the foundational terror she's avoided, his wholeness was intrinsic, never dependent on her presence. Her departure didn't break him, it revealed his resilience, shattering her cherished myth of being irreplaceable. Time distorts grotesquely. Minutes feel like hours as she refreshes her phone, scanning for digital crumbs, a view, a like, any sign she lingers in his thoughts. Days stretch into desolate epochs. She exists in the purgatory of his inattention, every silent moment screaming finality. This excruciating weight triggers retroactive idealization. Her mind, desperate to reconcile the loss, rewrites their history. Minor flaws fade, moments of friction soften. His quiet confidence becomes monumental, his subtle smirk unbearably magnetic. Replayed conversations gain profound, unspoken depth. She isn't just remembering him, she's constructing an unattainable phantom, a composite more perfect and intoxicating than reality, fueled precisely by its impossibility. Her pride, once an impenetrable shield, lies in ruins. The woman who once judged his worth now gauges her own by the devastating metric of his indifference. If he remains steadfast, calm, unmoved, selectively engaged only on his terms, he achieves the ultimate psychological victory. His non-reactivity isn't coldness, it's the embodiment of unshakable value. He demonstrates a truth that rewires her forever: a man of genuine substance cannot be emotionally blackmailed or lured back through performative regret. His indifference becomes the loudest declaration of worth. He shifts from a memory to a permanent cognitive benchmark, proof that scarcity breeds insurmountable value. She may move forward, but she carries this knowledge: she encountered a rare, irreducible whole and let him slip away, not just losing a man, but forever altering her understanding of what one could be. His quiet strength in walking away becomes the final, devastating lesson she never forgets.